Group of 7 offers developing countries an alternative to China's so-called Belt and Road Initiative. Hello and welcome to VOA Asia Weekly. I'm Chris Casquejo in Washington. That story coming up, but first making headlines. Indonesian President Joko Widodo met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky before heading to Russia to meet leader Vladimir Putin in the hope of reviving peace talks. U.S. President Joe Biden, South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol, and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida met on the sidelines of the NATO summit in Madrid. This is the first time South Korea attended the NATO summit. It announced it will establish a mission in the Western Military Alliance. China's foreign ministry spokesman defended preventing Taiwan from joining the UN Ocean Conference after the Pacific island nation of Tuvalu, an ally of Taiwan, withdrew from the conference. Chinese President Xi Jinping arrived Thursday in Hong Kong ahead of celebrations marking 25 years since the city was turned over from Britain to China. Fuel supplies are nearly exhausted in debt-ridden Sri Lanka. The country sent 2 government representatives to Russia to negotiate for fuel. An ASEAN regional envoy for the crisis in Myanmar wrote a letter to the country's military leaders urging them to end deposed leader Aung San Suu Kyi's solitary confinement and return her to house arrest. The group of 7 leaders launched a $600 billion global infrastructure initiative they say will compete with China's Belt and Road Initiative. But analysts say this ambitious proposal has some issues. VOA White House correspondent Anita Powell reports from Austria, with reporting from Patsy Widakuswara in Washington.
The G7 Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment plans to offer developing nations $600 billion in infrastructure funding by 2027 as an alternative to China's massive Belt and Road Initiative. President Joe Biden unveiled the proposal at the G7 summit in Germany.
What we're doing is fundamentally different because it's grounded on our shared values of all those representing the countries and organizations behind me. It's built using the global best practices, transparency, partnership, protections for labor and the environment.
A third of the funding comes from the U.S. and the rest from other wealthy G7 nations, using modest government investments and establishing high standards designed to leverage private sector financing. The initiative is a relaunch of the Build Back Better World Plan, announced by G7 leaders last year.
The West had really been asleep at the wheel over the number of years on this use of connectivity, infrastructure connectivity, as a means of extending foreign policy influence. And so they are now coming together on a united project to sort of push this.
The G7 plan will focus on digital connectivity, gender equity, health security, climate and energy security, areas seen as not yet dominated by China's investments. It's billed as a better alternative to BRI, which has been criticized as debt trap diplomacy that Beijing employs to expand its influence. But meeting Western standards of labor and environment may prove challenging for countries.
Due to the level of ease of Chinese investments, these are often quite attractive because in the end of the day, when you're a developing country, you want the infrastructure now.
Beijing slammed the initiative as a zero-sum game approach.
We oppose the moves that advance geopolitical calculations and smear the Belt and Road Initiative in the name of promoting infrastructure development.
In the 9 years since it was launched, nearly 150 countries have signed up for China's BRI, so far totaling over 2,600 projects with a combined value of $3.7 trillion, according to data analysis firm Refinitiv. Anita Powell, VOA News, Tels, Austria.
Visit our website, voanews.com, for the most up-to-date stories. This is VOA Asia Weekly. Filipino journalist and Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Ressa said that the Philippines government is affirming a previous order to shut down Rappler, the news website she co-founded. Rappler gained notoriety for its reporting of outgoing President Rodrigo Duterte's bloody crackdown on illegal drugs. Ressa said Rappler will stay in business until all legal appeals are exhausted. Finally, on VOA Asia Weekly, an Indonesian villager captured a crocodile measuring more than 4 meters using just a thin rope. Video of Usman and his son wrangling the mighty croc went viral in Indonesia. Conservation officials took the crocodile to release it in a less populated area. That's all the time we have here on VOA Asia Weekly. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Chris Casquejo. Please be sure to tune in again next week.